Hello everyone and welcome back on BlockGems. On BlockGems we talk about what is going on in the non-fungible tokens space, and today we're going to talk about art blocks and where the opportunities for NFT collectors such as us might be. So first of all, if you're not familiar with the project, what is Art Blocks? Art Blocks is a first of its kind platform focused on generally programmable on-demand generative content that is stored immutably on the Ethereum blockchain. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what this is in essence is a platform, a system that allows artists to mint generative art, to create generative art that is stored on the blockchain. And there is also a primary market, so the artists can create this script that will allow the production of this generative art, and buyers can show up at the drop and buy the art. However, what is interesting, or at least what I find interesting, is that whomever buys, whenever they buy, they just have an idea of how the style of the artwork is going to look like. They have an idea of the constraints of the project, of how more or less it's going to look like, but they don't have a precise idea of what they buying. Imagine that the art piece you want to buy is something like this. You do not know what exactly you will buy until you actually already own it. And this is because it is generative in essence. So the artwork is created after, or actually during, it is minted. So you buy something that you know more or less is going to look like this, but as it is generated in the moment you buy it, you do not know how it is going to look like until you actually already own it. Now, make no mistake, this is not the first time that we see generative art on the blockchain. And this is because the very first experiment in generative art on the blockchain was performed by Larva Labs with the project Autoglyphs. Now, this is important for a number of reasons, but let's name one or two. The first reason is, of course, price, is value. These artworks, there are only 512 autoglyphs around, and these artworks are now selling for already astronomical prices. A few months ago, you would have seen maybe single-digit prices in Ethereum. Now they're going for hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases, with the floor being at above 80,000 at the time of recording. Of course, it also depends on Ethereum price fluctuations. However, what makes Art Blocks unique is that this is the first time that we see a platform, an actual system that allows for generative art stunts, generative art experiments to be performed systematically. So artists can use this system, this tool that has been created to mint generative art on the blockchain. So it's not just a single isolated experiment as the one of Autoglyphs. It's a system that allows people to mint generative art altogether. So let's see how big this project is. And actually I've had quite a bit of a problem in sizing this project. And this is because if you look at the typical suspects that we have here and that we would compare it against, we can see that in the traditional dashboards, Art Blocks doesn't even show up. And this is for a number of reasons. So Nifty Gateway, Super Rare, Maker's Place, Foundation, Known Origin, and Async Art are all marketplaces. They are not collections. They are not applications per se that just allow to create art. They're also that, but mostly they present themselves as marketplaces, both for the primary market, so when you're buying something directly from the artists, and for secondary market. And this is not what Art Blocks is. On Art Blocks, you do not have a secondary market. You just have a system that allows artists to mint, to publish their work through this platform. But after that, you cannot buy the artwork on Art Blocks. You can just and only buy it on the secondary market, for instance, on OpenSea, just as an example. However, there is a way to size this market, and this is provided by DappRadar. And as you can see, this ranks in the top collections, not as a marketplace. And it is ranking between the best rivals already. It's well within the top 10, and there are very interesting projects between which it is placed, and it is growing very fast. Now, how can you get a hold of some collectibles that have been created thanks to Artblocks? There are two main ways, of course, the primary and the secondary market. No surprise here, but how do you learn about drops on the primary market? Well, the best way you have is to follow Artblocks on Twitter. For instance, this is a good example. On March the 4th, they said tomorrow we're going to have a new created drop. This is how much it's going to last. And you need to show up on time because, as you might have learned so far, the primary market just has very short, very narrow windows that allow you to enter. And this is regardless of the project you are after, whether it be on Nifty Gateway, whether it be on Atomic Hub, or in this case on Artblocks. So one advice could be follow this page to be updated about where and when the drops are going to take place. So there is also the secondary market, and what we can see in the secondary market is that also here, in terms of sales, in terms of volume on the secondary marketplace, it is ranking very, very high. Now, these figures here, this information here, must be taken with a grain of salt, and this is because, of course, Artblocks Curated, it is not selling more per week than Super Rare, because this information only relates to OpenSea. It is only valuable for OpenSea. It's only valid for OpenSea. What I mean is that Super Rare, as mentioned before, has an internal market. So there are artworks that are constantly traded on Super Rare or Maker's Place. So this ranking here is only tracking the purchases, the trades that occur on OpenSea. With that being said, this is still a fairly impressive data point that we have here. And now that we know all these things, it could be interesting to say or to ask, okay, what is interesting entry point? What do I start collecting? What could be an interesting project within all the 28 at the time of recording, all the 28 projects that have been already created on Artblocks, which could be the most interesting one. Now, I have an opinion about it, and no, this is financial advice, by the way, but I think that the squiggles, as presented here, are some of the most interesting collectibles. So, a couple of reasons why, in my opinion, this is one of the collectibles that might see in the future highest appreciation. So, first of all, this was the very first project that appeared on Artblocks, the Project Zero for Artblocks. And if we click on curated projects, it's the only project that will forever appear under the open tab. Not because it's open, but because there is a sort of interesting story behind the reason why it will be stuck there. So as you can see here, it seems as if not all of the pieces, not all of the tokens have been minted. There was a maximum amount of 10,000 and it's stuck here. Now, will the minting will be resumed? No. And we can see here that this has been publicly disclosed by Artblock itself. It says the very first Artblock project by Artblock's founder is paused for new minting on the site and will not be unpaused. So they are, of course, referring to Squiggle. But there is also another reason besides this funny story, this sort of quirk in the development of this specific art blocks project. There's also another feature that I like, and it's the fact that wherever you go, the squiggles are sort of the symbol of art blocks. So we can see this, for instance, on the very art blocks Twitter page. We can see this in the icon of the art blocks curated project on OpenSea. And here we also see the entry prices. So it's something affordable. It's not even anything that is breaking the bank. I hope that you guys find this information interesting, and if that's the case, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button. And with that, see you in the next video.